The fascinating thing about the runaway royals is they seem to symbolise, at least to me, a new morality, a worrying new morality. Harry and Meghan Markle didn't just run away from their duties as British royals. They have made an art form of presenting themselves as victims, despite living in a $20 million mansion, signing massive deals with Netflix and Spotify, which means that they can get massively well paid for seeming compassionate. Last week, Prince Harry did yet another media interview, complaining this time to comedian James Corden about his royal family, which had forced him to step down from his remaining duties because he was no longer in the country, and complaining too about the British press, which he has complained is too intrusive.
It was never walking away. It was stepping back rather than stepping down.
Right.
It was a really difficult environment, as I think a lot of people saw. We all know what the British press can be like, and it was destroying my mental health. I was
Really?
like, this is toxic.
Yeah.
So I did what any husband and what any father would do, is like, I need to get my family out of here.
And now Harry and Meghan, who claim to want more privacy, fled to the riches of Los Angeles to get it, have done an interview with Oprah Winfrey as well that will be run on Sunday. And there'll be more complaints to judge by the teaser.
Almost unsurvivable sounds like there was a breaking point.
In fact, the one snippet we've got from the couple speaking is Harry complaining again to Oprah just how tough his life has been.
Just really relieved and happy to be sitting here talking to you with my wife by my side, because I can't begin to imagine what it must have been like for her going through this process by herself all those years ago, because it has been unbelievably tough for the two of us, but at least we had each other.
Unbelievably tough for Harry and Meghan when they are two of the luckiest, richest, most privileged people on the planet. And meanwhile, more than 2 million other people have died of the coronavirus, for instance. Tens of millions have been thrown out of work when Harry's grandfather, Prince Philip, 99 years old, has been in hospital for weeks with the Queen wondering if he'll ever come home. I wonder what happened to counting your blessings, or at least keeping that stiff upper lip. Joining me is psychologist Claire Rowe. Claire, I'm sorry to sound so damning, and thank you for coming on the show. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but with Harry and Meghan, are we seeing just two people who represent this new kind of morality of the times where victims rule, they're just playing along to that kind of vibe, or are they some kind of narcissists?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Look, do they have narcissistic traits in them? Possibly. I have to say I don't know. I haven't assessed them. All I can say is in my knowledge of narcissistic traits and trying to weigh up that with some of the behaviours. They certainly could be viewed as this young, self-entitled, self-obsessed couple. Others will view them as opinionated, fearless, and a couple that are just trying to find their way and their freedom. So it depends what lens you look at it through. But certainly I think more and more there's this element that they will constantly need the approval, and that's borne out through these multiple interviews, and that certainly is a concerning trait. I think this couple, look, it's kind of almost this ticking time bomb. When I first saw Meghan enter the royal family, I had two thoughts, like many other people. That was, she's the best thing for the royal family, and she won't last 5 minutes, because and ever since then it was kind of on this path to destruction. But look, I wouldn't have been surprised 12 months ago if they had abdicated, and then that was an option. It wouldn't have been the first abdication of the royal family, and the Queen's uncle did that, but that involved writing a letter and leaving the country within a couple of days, and really not being heard from again, and living his days out with his wife because he wanted that life. And I think there was incredible public support worldwide for Harry. We remember that little 12-year-old walking behind that little boy walking behind that coffin. And I think if he'd gotten to that point and wanted to abdicate, I think there would have been absolute well-wishers and everyone behind him. I think now, what people are confused at is that perhaps perhaps that leading a private life and the line that they spruiked, perhaps that was never the plan. And perhaps they then just had this all lined up to be leveraged to now be actually bigger than they ever were going to be, and independently more wealthy than they ever were going to be. And so to sit now in front of Oprah and comedians and whinge is going to rub people off, up the wrong way. And I think also importantly, and my concern is that they won't have a lot of insight into why they've rubbed people up the wrong way. And that is also probably a concern.
But this is the thing. This is exactly the thing. Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned abdication, right? If they'd done that, but it seemed to me they wanted to be royal and to profit off it without actually doing the job full time. And they wanted to escape all this terrible invasion of privacy, but they actually wanted to sell it to more compliant media. I mean, the constant need for validation in this media stuff. We're victims. We want your sympathy. We want your sympathy. We only want it one way. It's just so extraordinary. But I want to ask you about something. In that clip I showed, once again, the clinging of hands, the touching each other, the photo they put when they announced the pregnancy, it's all touchy, touchy, touchy. Meghan Markle is being blamed for taking Harry away. She distanced herself from her own family. Now she and Harry are distancing from his family. They make all this show of public affection, very clingy. And they talk about, them against the world, them against the world. What sort of relationship is that? It makes my skin crawl, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think if there are kind of narcissistic traits there and an inability to really see what's going on, then I'm concerned for them. And I'm certainly concerned that if they don't have each other, what will happen to their mental health then? And it might be all well and good whilst they do cling to each other. But imagine if they lost that and the path that they would leave of destruction for their children. I mean, that's really concerning. But yes, I mean, she has been targeted as the one who's kind of taken Harry and driven this, and perhaps that's true. But at the same time, as I said in the beginning, I think these two souls have met each other and the perfect storm has kind of happened. And we've got a man here who has spoken, I mean, not my words, spoken about his trauma and his life of depression following the death of his mother, and that he's only cried twice. And so to cross paths with like a woman like Meghan, who seemingly has provided him an answer to that, perhaps, was probably irresistible for Harry in his position.
Well, it's just so strange a phenomenon, and I'm just wondering why it's commanding some affection and support when it's just so needy. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, there it goes. They're making the millions from it, so there must be something for it. Claire Rowe, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.